58% catch rate last year. That's almost as bad as having Helen Keller go out for a pass.
I think this is the year he steps up.
He is the biggest boomer bust.
Ball distribution is going to be all over the chart.
He was dominating.
He has the easiest schedule on the books.
Maybe the greatest tight end we've ever seen. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Catch on Vibe. I'm your host, Drew, and I'm joined by my dad, Mike Anderson. Dad, how are we doing today?
Good. Excited, ready to do this?
Yep. So, past 3 weeks, we've gone over quarterback, running back, receiver. This week, it's not everybody's favorite position to talk fantasy, but it's important. You want to get yourself one of these elite tight ends because they score way more than the below top 10 tight ends.
Right. You definitely, strategy-wise, want to get a tight end early. Some of them produce, and then it really falls off, the later the tight ends get. But, yeah, hopefully we help you out there and give you some information on who to choose, and hopefully you like it.
All right, boys. So we're doing our top 10 tight ends for the 2024 fantasy year. So,
okay,
number 10.
Yeah. All right. My number 10, I'm going to start with Jake Ferguson from the Dallas Cowboys. I just think he's in a great position being on that team. Who else are they going to throw the ball to? You got CeeDee Lamb, and then it drops off a lot there. Dallas is going to throw the ball a ton. He put up pretty good stats. He had 102 targets, 71 receptions, almost 800 yards, 5 touchdowns. I see those numbers coming up a little bit. I think he's going to get some more touchdowns. He was always looked at in the red zone, had a good target share for the team. I just like Jake Ferguson. He might even be a higher rated tight end than that, but I had to put him at 10.
Number 10 for me, I have David Njoku. Njoku had a breakout year last year. He had 123 targets, most in his career by 40. 882 yards, 6 touchdowns. If you just look at him, he is a freak athlete. He's 6'4", 250 pounds, and runs a 4.6. I mean, last year he scored 200 points. Sure, his best games were with Flacco, but he was getting a good amount of targets with Watson. He had games of 9 targets, 8 targets, 7 targets. I just think the Browns are like finding their groove offensively, and he's a key factor in that offense for them since Chubb's going to be missing a bunch of time or half the year or whatever it is. They're going to want to lean on him or Amari Cooper. If Amari's getting traded, Ayuk. I mean, I just like Njoku this year again in fantasy.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's my number 9, David Njoku. He's the last couple years, he's slowly improving, getting more involved into the game plan. He's he's really turned into being that deep threat up the middle. He runs that seam route right up the middle, and they look his way and hit him down there. They get in the red zone. They're definitely trying to feed him the ball. He's got size, like you said, good reach, good catch radius. He jumps up, catches the ball, and I think he still has room to improve. Like you said, he's a freak athlete. I think he's in a good position. I really think the Browns, this could be a takeoff year for them. So I think he's in a good position.
Yeah. And another year of Deshaun with the Browns. Like, not saying he's going to be that 2020 Deshaun, but he's going to get better. And towards the end of the year, he was finding his stride. So that's a good pick there. Number 9, we're kind of flip-flop. I have Jake Ferguson here. Second year in the league, and it was a pretty good one. He already went for his stats, but he showed up big in their Packer loss. He had 3 touchdowns that game, and not many people are talking about it. They don't have the weapons, They have CD, the clear number 1 guy, who's going to probably get 80% target share this year. And I think Ferguson's going to get that 20%. They can't run the ball, so they're just going to be passing nonstop. and I just like him a lot. Like he was top 5 in targets for tight end last year. I don't see him dropping much
No.
with how the Cowboys
Mhm.
offseason went. So
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, you saw the defenses starting to lean over and cover CD a little bit more, so that's going to open up Ferguson as far as over the middle and down on the sidelines. So
mhm,
yeah, I think he's in good. I think he's going to do have a good year too. I
yeah,
agree. Um, so my number 8, man, I now thinking about it, I kind of almost wish I would have put him a little higher, and I'm sure some of you out there would probably agree that he should be higher. Dalton Kincaid, you know, really like the situation him being on a team with, Diggs gone and Gabe Davis. That opens up a lot of targets for him. So I think he will probably finish higher than this 8, but that for right now, that's where I put him. Just a little worried. Dawson Knox is still there, and when
right.
he was there, he was a able and good tight end too. So he might steal some of his production, but I have him at my 8 spot. Just you know, uh, he probably will be higher at the end of the year, just
Yeah,
because of all the receptions or all the targets vacated by them guys leaving. So
right. No, that's a good pick there. My number 8, I'm going Kyle Pitts, the biggest disappointment of fantasy football the past 2 years. I
right,
mean, Pitts has struggled since his rookie year. His rookie year, he had 1,000 yards. Then the past 2 years, he's only gotten like 900 yards and 5 touchdowns. I think the time is finally here. He gets a major upgrade at quarterback with Cousins, and Pitts had a 58% catch rate last year. That's almost as bad as having Helen Keller go out for a pass and
right.
hoping she catches a pass. Ritter's out of there.
Yeah.
That's just heavenly for Pitts. I think this is his make or break a year for him.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, how can you miss that guy?
Yeah.
The target. I mean, he's so big, right? Yeah, I agree. My number 7 is Kyle Pitts.
Mm,
I mean, how size and speed. The guy's 6'6", and he ran like a 4.4 speed. Coming in, he was the highest projected tight end coming into the league.
right.
And this guy, his rookie year, he had a solid year.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last 2 years, if everybody was jumping early on him in the drafts and the fantasy drafts, and he has not produced, he hurt your team so bad.
Yeah.
People's got, bad feelings toward him because he hasn't produced. Now,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of that was the quarterback play, but I think this year he's set up to have a good year. I mean, they went out and got a quarterback that can definitely get the ball in his catch radius.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to improve there. Um, I think this is the year he steps up, and he
Mm-hmm.
could easily finish high and live up to that billing that everybody thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
He had 90 targets last year, 50 receptions. This is ridiculous numbers for him, for a guy. They lined him up as a receiver. He was on the outside. Imagine being a DB
Yeah.
covering a guy that's 6'6", that runs 4.4 speed. It's hard to do,
They were just trying everything to get him the
to
ball,
get
but
him
they
open.
didn't have
And,
the guy that could deliver.
and I just think that the Ritter was not the right guy. So now
No.
you got Cousins coming into town. I think he's just gonna I think he's gonna have a good year this year.
Yeah.
He could easily be up in the top 3, but for
Mm-hmm.
now I got him at 7, just because everybody is still a little scared
Mm-hmm.
of production from him.
Oh, for sure. Number 7 for me, I have Dalton Kincaid. Like everybody's high on Kincaid for obvious reason. You already talked about Gabe Davis and Diggs are gone. There's not a true number 1 in
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo now, and he has Josh Allen, who's 1B quarterback. Like
Yeah,
everybody thinks he's a top 3 quarterback,
yeah,
and he
yeah.
absolutely is. And his rookie year, not many tight ends like break out their rookie year, but
Mm-hmm.
he had good stretches of games.
Mm-hmm.
Week 7 through 10, he scored 15-7, 16-16. Only had 2 touchdowns last year. I think that number is going up
Mm-hmm.
big time.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, that's why I have Kincaid at 7.
that's good.
Wouldn't surprise me if he
Finishes
finished in the
higher.
top 5 for
Finishes
sure.
higher. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so my number 6 is George Kittle. This guy is the biggest boomer bust. I mean, there's weeks he goes out there, he puts up 40 points for you, and there's weeks that he puts up 3. I mean, he's one of those guys that you love to have him on your team, but he just doesn't perform some weeks. He's on a good team now. If the 49ers make a mistake and get rid of Ayuk, that could open up and make him, have a better year. But there is a lot of mouths to feed on that team. So Kittle, that's why I put him at 6. Just the ball distribution is going to be all over the chart. And that's why some weeks he falls off and some weeks he shines. They're always in the red zone. He's going to get you some touchdown grabs. There's some weeks he has multiple touchdowns for you. So, and then there's some weeks he doesn't produce anything.
Yeah.
So I like George Kittle. That's why I have him at 6, just because of the distribution of all the other guys' mouths to feed. So.
And he's such a great blocking tight end too.
Yeah,
so they have him block defensive ends.
But that doesn't score you any points in fantasy. But you're right. He's a great utility player in the NFL. He's just I like him. I think he's a stand-up guy. I think he's a great dude. So.
You should get half a point for the pancakes he puts on guys. But my number 6, I'm going McBride here. Last year he had 100 targets. You like that. 81 catches, 800 yards, 3 touchdowns. And Kyler missed half the season. But when Kyler was back playing, McBride had his best games. He had 25 points, 21, 22, and 20. I think he's in a great position to break out with Kyler, and being 1 year removed from the ACL injury. And he doesn't have, he has Marvin Harrison Jr., but teams are probably going to be doubling Marvin Harrison.
Right.
So that's just going to leave more room for McBride to break out this year and be a top 6 or 5 tight end fantasy this year.
Yeah, right. I agree. So my number 5 is going to be Evan Ingram. I mean, he had a great year last year. This guy led the league in targets. He had 143 targets. I mean, that's up there with the receivers. Great number. 114 receptions, almost 1,000 yards receiving, 4 touchdowns. I mean, this guy is great size, great ability, great route runner. He's another guy that they line up on the outside. They line him up like a receiver. He don't stay in there and block anybody. He's running routes. So that's what you like to have. He had a 24% target share, which is really good for a tight end. That means he's not standing in there and blocking. He's out running routes. He had 8.41 targets a game, 6.7 receptions a game. I mean, these are all his best numbers of the year. It seemed like Trevor Lawrence really looked his way. He really liked him. So I got to put him up there at my number 5. I think he's a solid receiver, good speed, and I think he's going to continue on getting the targets and receptions for this team.
That might be your greatest pick ever, because I also have Evan Ingram at 5. I mean, he's a freak athlete. He's good speed. He's 6'5". Last year he had 143 targets, most by a tight end, and him and T-Law have a really good connection. And there's some new faces with the offense. Brian Thomas, they drafted in the first round. Gabe Davis, they picked up in free agency. Ridley leaves for the Titans. I just think T-Law is going to lean on Ingram and Christian Kirk early in the year.
Right, I agree. I think the Jaguars are still trying to find that number 1 solution.
Yeah.
Christian Kirk started out the year on fire, and he looked like the number 1. And then he got banged up a little bit. So I still think they're searching for that 1, and that's kind of why Ingram stepped up to the plate and got so many targets and so many receptions. So,
number 4.
My number 4 is Mark Andrews. The biggest question with him is, can he stay healthy? He's clearly the best option on this team because they're struggling with trying to find their number 1. And he's great hands, great ability, and Lamar likes looking his way. He's his safety blanket on that team, which is one of the best offenses in the league. So I really like Mark Andrews. Question is, they got a young stud behind him. Isaiah Likely
Yeah.
looks pretty good. I mean, so he could rob some of his productions. For me, Mark Andrews isn't on the field all the time. He's always on the sideline a little bit, not injuries, just on the sideline. He only plays so much percentage of the snaps, so he's on a low percentage. But there's no doubt that this guy is good. I mean, he's been a top tight end fantasy point wise. So I got to put him at 4.
Mm-hmm. Safe pick there. My number 4 is George Kittle, the people's tight end. How do you not love Kittle? I mean, he's great. He was tight end 4 last year, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. Great situation, great offense. But you are absolutely right. He is the biggest boomer bust in fantasy, honestly, at this point, because he'll score 1 point or he'll score 27 points. You never know which week it's going to be.
Right.
But if Ayuk gets traded, man, he's going to have a great year.
He's going to get a little bump, that's for sure. He's going to get more targets his way.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I mean, I like Kittle, and I feel like I had him a little low, but we'll see.
And maybe if your league manager's like, hey, let's add like pancake points, and Kittle should be number 1 for tight end if that's the case. But number 3.
My number 3 is going to be Trey McBride. I mean, this guy really stepped up last year. Now he's getting Kyler Murray, right?
He's for the whole year.
He's going to have a good year, I think. Zach Ertz is gone. He's out of the way. He stepped up. He had a great rookie season. I mean, he had a good year. Good size, good speed. He's a mismatch for all the linebackers when he's coming across the middle. If you watch them play, he just ran by them. He's plus biggest thing for me I saw as a factor is that for tight ends, he has the easiest schedule on the books as far as the tight ends go.
Yeah,
they have one of the easiest schedules, and the way he had such a good year. He had 106 targets, 81 receptions, 825 yards, 3 touchdowns. I think those touchdowns come up, and that for tight ends, touchdowns are gold because they don't ever get the high production like the receivers do. So this is what separates these tight ends are these touchdowns.
Yeah.
So if those tight end or those touchdowns come up, I think he could be up in the top. So, he's my number 3. I like McBride.
It's a good one. My number 3, good old reliable Mark Andrews. Andrews got hurt last year, played 10 games. He had 45 catches, over 500 yards, 6 touchdowns. He was dominating before he got hurt. He had games of 15, 25, 22, and 17. He's clearly Lamar's number 1 guy still. But Zay Flowers is an upcoming player, and I heard likely they might put him at receiver just so they get a guy that can dominate on the field because Andrews is one of their best offensive players. Of course they want him on the field. You put Likely out wide. He's 6'6". I mean, he could do numbers as a receiver, and he's not that big body. So I like Mark Andrews. Like the past 4 years, he's been elite tight end. I think that continues for this year too. I don't think he misses 6 games this year.
Yeah. He's on that, one of the best offenses out there.
Yeah.
Being his clear-cut number 1 look, Lamar looking for Andrews. I mean, he's going to have a good year. Like I said, it's just a health issue with him.
Right.
This guy's been banged up here and there, and he hasn't had a full 16 or 17 game season. So, hopefully he can get a whole season in, and he should be up there. So my number 2, Sam Laporta.
Yep.
Had a great rookie year. I mean, and he's got a good quarterback. Like I said, I'm high on the Detroit Lions this year. I think they're going to go pretty far. And production, I was seeing on Sportsbook they have the Detroit Lions as being the second highest scoring team of this year coming up. So that means they're going to put up a lot of points, and Sam Laporta is probably going to get a lot of production because he's, to me, the number 2 on this team.
Yeah.
You know, St. Brown is 1, and then he looks the Laporta way. So he had 120 targets. That's great. 86 receptions, 889 yards, 10 touchdowns. He led all tight ends with the most touchdowns. That's why he had such a, like I said, big season as far as putting up points, because he had so many touchdowns. He had a 22% target share. So I really like Sam Laporta. I just couldn't put him at the 1 notch.
Yeah.
I had to put him at 2.
Not yet, Padawan. But number 2, I got Sam Laporta too. Big surprise last year. He was ranked tight end 18 for drafts and finished as tight end 1 last year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kelsey had a down year, but I mean, he had an incredible rookie year. He averaged 14 points per game. He's on a great offense. What's not to like here? I'm just not ready to hand the keys over to him yet because Travis Kelce still has Mahomes and Andy Reid, but Laporta should have another great year this year. Yeah. And everybody knows where we're going here now.
Right. So my number 1 still Travis Kelce. I mean, for everybody thinks he had really a down year, but he still had a good solid year. This tight end does the most with the receptions that he gets. I mean, this guy is always in the end zone, always has big yard receiving. And, he had 120 targets, 93 receptions, almost 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns. And it's, he's still Mahomes' guy, still the security blanket. I see the touchdown. He only had 5. I see those coming up. He might not get the reception totals high, but I think he just gets the touchdowns, and that's what you want from him. He still gets that 22 target share. I mean, this is the guy that you want to have. For me, this was the biggest thing for me. The first 6 weeks of the year, he scored 4 touchdowns. In the last 9 weeks, he only had 1. So he dropped, and he still finished in the top 2 tight ends last year. Yeah. And he did not have that big year as far as the touchdowns. Right. He's always used to putting up 1 touchdown, it seems like a game, just because he's, always out there producing, and Mahomes always finds them when they're in the red zone.
Yeah.
So he's clearly still number 1 for me until he falls off.
Mm-hmm. Number 1, I have Travis Kelce, maybe the greatest tight end we've ever seen. A lot of people can argue about that, but last year he was kind of a bust because people were drafting him in the first round.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But if you draft him in the 3rd round like this year, or 3rd to 5th, depending on your league mates, if you guys got smart dudes in that league, he's the safest tight end by far. Mm-hmm. No question mark at quarterback, not a question mark at the head coach. Like, Andy Reid is going to get Travis Kelce the ball when they need a first down, or and they got more playmakers this year. They got Marquise Brown in free agency. Rashid Rice is going to come back eventually, and they got Xavier Worthy. So they have guys that can go over the top now, something they lacked last year. Mm-hmm. And that just leaves Kelce opening across the middle, or doing those choice routes where him and Mahomes are on the same page, that Mahomes knows where Kelce's going to go here.
Yeah.
I mean, you looked at Kelce in the postseason, that's Travis Kelce. He averaged 9 targets a game. And when it's crunch time, Mahomes is looking for Kelce, and he's going to get more touchdowns this year. Like, 5 is so low for Travis Kelce. Like you saying, he had 4 in the first, what was it, 9 games?
6 games.
Or 6 games, and then
1 in 9. The last 9.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
It might have been because Taylor Swift was involved last year, and he
Right.
was having trouble balancing that out. But
Right. Sure.
you know,
Sure. Yeah.
I mean,
Right. Yeah. So the thing I've noticed, like in the last from the drafting I've been doing this year, is these tight ends are now starting to fall into where they need to be in your drafts and your fantasy drafts, because not so many people out there anymore are reaching for these guys. Like you said, Kelsey was in the first round,
mm-hmm.
and rightfully so. He may have deserved to be there, but these tight ends should be in the third round, fourth round, and then it drops a few
Yeah.
rounds. Then you got the 6 and 7, and then once you don't hit there, then you're going to be late in the draft as
Mm-hmm.
far as picking your tight end. So I think they're starting to fall back into the right placement
Yeah.
as far as drafts go. I just can't reach for these guys in early rounds. No first round, no second round. Third round, you start looking for the first tier guys, which would be Kelsey and Laporta.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe McBride. I still struggle with him being in there, but I think they're starting to come back into where they need to be in the placement as far as drafting for your fantasy drafts. So,
like, I want to say like June, I would look at mock drafts and Laporta was going this second round. It's like, that's way too freaking early,
right?
Especially with how many good running backs are available in this second round.
Right. With all the receivers being into the first round, that bumps some of them running backs down that produce. I think that these tight ends, and I just can't see picking Laporta over Kelsey yet.
Yeah.
Both those guys to me are third rounders.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect spot for you. If you go heavy receiver, then you get him. In the third round, I think you stacked your team. I really think I just can't reach for these guys that early.
No doubt about that. But boys, that wraps up the top 10 tight ends rankings. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to comment what we got right, what we got wrong.
Right. We had
we
some people comment.
Had some good banter from the last video.
We appreciate that.
So keep it coming. That up.
Yeah. We definitely love to hear from you guys,
Yeah, so no kicker video or defense kicker. We're going to be on bus or sleepers next, or maybe a first round mock. We'll see. But thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Peace.